So I know nobody uses those phrases, but that is what it is. So I joked the other day, I didn't know if Texas A&M was going to incur a luxury tax, and how much they paid for their signing class.
I know it's been on your mind. So you stacked top 10 classes together now for 4 years in a row. I don't think there was ever even 2 before that. So do you kind of consider it a slap in the face or whatever when there's these thoughts out there that it's because a lot of money is being spent and just your thoughts?
Here's what I'm going to say, and this is point blank. This is point blank because here's my problem. There is no $30 million fund. There is no $5 million. There is no 10. This is garbage, okay? And it pisses me off that people, and here it comes from a site called Bro Bible by a guy named Sliced Bread. Then everybody runs with it. So it's written on the internet, it's gospel. How irresponsible is that? And then we gripe about the transfer portal, and you guys take more than everybody. What's about that? And what goes on? The hypocrisy is a joke. It's an absolute joke, and it's insulting to our staff, how hard we work, to how we do things. It's insulting to Texas A&M because there ain't a better place to go to school and play ball. If we don't like it, we're coming on. Get used to it. All right? We ain't going nowhere. It's an absolute joke. The people who put the hard work in and do it. It's irresponsible, but it's funny when they get it, it's all okay. Ball games are changing, man. And it ain't because of NIL and what goes on. It's pretty irresponsible of all of them. They're clowns.
Go next.
If they got a problem with it, come see me. I ain't a hard guy to find. We'll be in some meetings. You can say anything you want. We can do anything you want. I ain't got no problem with it. I promise you that shit.
Oh, welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined, as always, by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man. I'm doing great. And let me tell you, Shane, I know we're not a basketball podcast. We don't get too far into that, but
nope.
It's almost like basketball time. I've watched 2 games this month. I feel like I'm a basketball junkie now. How about you?
I know. My buddies texted me about baseball already. I'm a one sport kind of guy. Yeah, every now and then I'll flip on a NASCAR race or maybe I'll watch a baseball. Nah, who am I kidding? I don't watch any baseball unless it's a championship game. It probably ain't happening. And for starters, I'm not going to make it all the way through. I try. And I know it's a lot better when you're there in person, but baseball, basketball, it's tough. It's tough for me because, like you said, I'm all in on football.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kid a little bit. Hey, we're not trying to make fun of those other sports, but we're trying to keep this thing as football as we can. And, man, do we get a ton of engagement last week, Shane, when we dug up, I found this on social media, a schedule breakdown of what the SEC could look like if, when Texas and Oklahoma comes aboard. And, Greg Sankey's out here already talking about it. I think he's trying to let the public know that this is being discussed, that they're likely going to do away with divisions. As I know some people are not happy about that, but when you got Texas and Oklahoma into the league, we love the SEC more than anybody. But the one thing that's messed up about the SEC is the scheduling. And this is going to be their opportunity to fix it. And so we're just basically going to talk about that this entire episode because we think this is basically the perfect breakdown of how to get that done. So how's that sound to you, brother?
Brother, it sounds fantastic. And it is unusual looking at this thing because I'm hearing everything from pods. We got revolving schedules. We're going to keep the conferences. We've got all kinds of stuff coming out, expanded playoffs. There's just so many rumors floating around out there right now. This list that you sent out is probably, I think we both agree, is one of the best ideas that's floating out there. And for that being said, Mike, if you're listening to the podcast, where can they find this list?
We've tweeted it out.
Well, Siri's trying to tell me. Sorry. Siri, this damn watch, man, I swear, I think it's listening all the time. It didn't stop me today, Mike. I'm going to tell you, I stopped by real quick. I've been tired here the last few days, Mike. I've been dragging, and so I'm blaming this COVID. You know, I'm saying, well, maybe I got that long COVID. Maybe that's why I'm tired all the time. But I boiled it down to 2 reasons, Mike, on why I'm sleepy. And the 2 reasons, and the reason that there's 2, it's buy one, get one right now. These blueberry cream pies at McDonald's are dynamite, brother. I can't stop eating them, man. I went by there the other day. This happened. True story, Mike. So I stopped by. I drive an hour to work. Now, in this hour drive, I passed 2 McDonald's. Not once in my entire life have I ever stopped at both of them until 4 days ago. And let me explain why. I'm going through the drive-through, and I order my nuggets, and I get down there. Obviously, I'm unhealthy, guys. All right, if you haven't figured that out by now, you're welcome, new listener. But I get to the window, and they say, you want to try one of these blueberry cream pies? And I've been eating pretty good, you know, so I didn't get a big 20-piece. You know, I just got 10-piece. That's pretty healthy. And I said, you know what? Just give me one. They're like, it's buy one, get one. I said, I don't care. You know, just give me one. If I have 2, I knew I was going to eat them both, you know?
Right.
So I'm eating this pie, and I'm driving. I'm like, oh, my God, this is the best thing McDonald's has ever created. And now I'm kicking myself for not getting the second pie. So what do? I stop at the second McDonald's, still drinking the first McDonald's Diet Coke, and I order me 2 blueberry cream. So I went from no pies to 3 pies, Mike. And since then, I've hit them every day. I'm telling you, it is addictive. They do not sponsor this show. If you have weight problems, please do not get this pie, because once you get a bite, you ain't going back, man. I'm telling you. Sorry. So anyway, that's my blueberry cream pie story. Where can you? So if you're looking where you can find the best pie, it's at McDonald's. But if you're looking for the best schedule, where are they going to find this, Mike?
Well, before I answer that, Shane, true story, little peel back behind the curtain. Just this weekend, Shane texted me, hey, are blueberries good for you? I said, yeah, of course. Load up on them. He said, great, because I just ate 2 blueberry cream pies.
They say it's a superfood, Mike. I just supersized it.
Well, Shane, you can find these this SEC schedule. I've tweeted out at SEC Mike. We tweeted out at the podcast, that SEC podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, we're going to be flashing to it. Not only the entire thing here, but I've broken it down team by team. So, hey, I'd love to give credit to because we didn't create this graphic. I should say that. I found this on the internet. I've tried to track down who made it. I still have been able to do that. As soon as I find out, you know, I'd love to credit them. So we did not create this graphic, but we love the idea. So want to give a shout out to whoever did create it. But yeah, this is a monstrous looking graphic here. If you're just looking at it and basically what
it's intimidating. It's intimidating looking at 16 teams.
Exactly.
But if you do slow it down, it is a fantastic idea. So sorry, I didn't mean to keep interrupting you, but I love talking future schedules because, I mean, just looking at this list, you forget that we're going to see Texas and Texas A&M playing again. You forget that Oklahoma and Alabama are going to meet, and it's not going to be in a college football playoff. So I don't know. It just blows my mind looking at all these teams, and I'm looking forward to all the great games we're going to see from it. So, all right, continue, Mike. Sorry, man.
And if you're just listening in on the show, you're not able to physically look at this graphic at this time. Basically, all it is, all 16 future SEC teams, because we're including Texas and Oklahoma in this. All 16 are going to have 3 permanent opponents that they play every single season, and that's great for a number of reasons. You're going to be able to keep some of these historic rivalries, and the beauty of it, you know, we'd have to go to a 9-game SEC schedule, and if we do away with divisions, every other year, you're going to face every single team in the SEC, if that makes sense. So let's say you don't, let's say you're Alabama and you don't play Georgia this season. Well, then you turn right around next season and you get Georgia. And the real beauty of this, in my opinion, Shane, is every single SEC player, if he stays at his school for 4 seasons or more, of course, now with super seniors and all this we're doing, if you stay for 4 years, you're going to be able to visit every single campus, and everyone in the SEC is going to be able to come to your home. It's just, this is such a much, much better way to do the SEC schedule, because we're sitting here thinking, when does Tennessee and Auburn, how often does that matchup occur? It's every 6-7 years. Ole Miss versus South Carolina. I mean, every 6-7 years, I can go down the list. There's so many games in this league that we do not get. It almost feels like some of these teams aren't even in the same conference. And if we go to this schedule every other year, you're going to face every team in the league. I just think, this is the only way to go in my mind. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about, we've talked about this in the past, the SEC 10-game schedule, and Dan Mullen, one of my favorite sound clips of him was talking about, it's not fair for the college football athlete not to get to go to some of these universities and play. I mean, the way this list is set up, you have an opportunity, like you said, if you're a four-year senior, to play every school at least twice. So, and your rivalry, obviously, you're going to hit them every single year. So I just love the idea. It would create a 9-game SEC schedule, so you still got a few, cupcakes that you can pencil in. But I love the idea. Now, this list you're going to come out with, there's a few games I disagree with, but it's going to be tough. I mean, I can only imagine what a committee's going to have to come up with. They're going to have to do something, brother. I don't see divisions being able to stick around. I think we're going to have to do something like this. And this is something I think benefits more the college athlete than it does maybe some of us fans.
Right. And, because even if they do try to keep divisions, with Texas and Oklahoma, you got to assume they got to be in the West, because it would make no sense to put them in these. So then you're going to have to kick 2 West teams to the East, and then there's going to be a fight over who that is. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it just makes the whole situation messy, whereas, and then we'd still have this, 5, 6, 7 year gaps between playing each other in conference opponents. It would just be a terrible, terrible idea. And one other thing, because I know there's a couple rivalries outside of the SEC, go into this format, you'd still be able to keep annual games like Florida State, Louisville, Kentucky, Georgia Tech, South Carolina, Clemson, and even possibly Oklahoma State. That's yet to be determined. And it's also being floated out there, Texas versus Texas Tech. They're wanting to keep that game intact. So, some of those games, there's no contract for at this point, so I'm not saying they have to play those games, but the option will still be there with this format, which just makes it even more favorable, in my opinion. So you ready to break this thing down team by team and basically their permanent rivals and on a team-by-team basis?
Yeah, let's do this. I love it.
All right, so we'll start at the top of the board, Alabama. You got to keep the Iron Bowl together. So Auburn, automatically, that's your number one permanent rival if you're Alabama. Auburn, Alabama, we got to keep that thing going. And then Tennessee versus Alabama, that's a game that's been going on as long as – I know you'll probably have a disagreement there with that one, but keeping that game would be important. And then last but not least, this kind of surprised a lot of people, but Alabama versus Mississippi State. And I looked up, the distance between every single SEC campus, and Alabama and Mississippi State, Tuscaloosa, Starkville, there's not a closer game in the entire conference, I don't believe. So, I think Mississippi State makes sense when you're just looking at it from a geographical point of view for Alabama. Thoughts on those three?
You talk about a subject I was not good at, Mike. So what you're saying is Mississippi State and Alabama are closer than Kentucky and Tennessee? Or it's 90 miles, I believe, from Starkville, Mississippi to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And so, for example, Alabama, Tuscaloosa, and Auburn, Alabama, I think it's right around 200 miles, if I'm not mistaken. So, hell, it's even closer
between Starkville and Tuscaloosa. So, it makes sense to keep Alabama and Mississippi State together, in my opinion.
Well, that's still that. I can't argue with you. It's like when my kid, when she was 2, I told her I was 10 foot tall. She'd be like, 10 foot tall, It's like, okay, she believes me. All right, yeah, I believe you. So we'll go with that one. It does kind of stand out there, but if it is, I mean, I know I knew they were close, and we've had some great games in the past, so I'm good with this. Is there a third team that you'd may consider adding here? I mean, we've had some great LSU games. Is there any other? I'm trying to think. Any other teams that you may consider?
Yeah, you kind of hit it right there. LSU. I mean, it would be tough to lose Alabama LSU every year because that's just been such a great game. But I don't know. Maybe you kick Mississippi State out and give them LSU, but then you got to figure out.
Yeah.
Then that kind of throws a wrench into the whole thing here, and we got to substitute. We'll get down to LSU's here in a moment, but it would be tough. Right. It would be tough. I mean, that's the only other option I could see. And again, the beauty of it, maybe you don't got LSU Alabama this year, but you're guaranteed to have it next year. So, it's not a huge sacrifice in my opinion, but LSU is definitely the one that. You could consider subbing Mississippi State for, but again, and here I just looked it up, 82 miles between Starkville and Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
I mean that's tight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's tight. If you're driving, I mean that's a good hour. I mean, my wife, she goes 82 miles an hour every time on the interstate. So I mean, that's an hour away. So I mean, just think about this though. So you got Auburn, Tennessee, Mississippi State. Yeah, and all 3 of those programs have had ups and downs, but there's been some really good games in years past. But then when you go to this schedule, like you said, I mean, they're still going to play on this scenario: Arkansas, LSU, Texas, Vandy, Georgia, Ole Miss. The following year, instead of those, they'll get UK, Florida, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas A&M, Mizzou. I mean, you're facing every team. So, boy, that's a tough schedule. I like it. I like it. Al, I think they nailed Alabama here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And one other thing. So basically, how they do the SEC championship game in a scenario like this, Shane. You just put, the team ranked number 1 in the SEC versus the team that's ranked number 2. And I know a lot of people will look at that and say, I don't like it. I want the East champ. I want the West champ. But how many years have we had it, Shane, where Alabama and LSU are the top 2? And, it wasn't that long ago, Florida and Georgia and then it has been a while, but there was times when it was Tennessee and Florida. And, on and on. I mean, there's so many instances where, just because, the East and the West meet in the SEC championship, we're not always getting the best 2 teams in the SEC championship. And I'd rather have that, even if it did mean a rematch. But I think more often than not, it wouldn't be a rematch, if that makes sense, because those head-to-head games are so important in determining SEC champions.
Absolutely. I think that's the key is when you have a schedule like this here, we're already hearing extended playoffs and things like that. We're going to have multiple teams from the SEC, even 2, 3, maybe even 3 lost programs going to the college football playoffs. And a lot of people say, one instance, I saw RG3. Did you see him coming out? He said something about like, if they should have just the top out of the top 4 conferences should go to. It's like, why? I mean, yeah, we let Cincinnati in. Michigan was in, and what happened? They got smoked by 2 SEC programs. So why not reward the top programs to go to an SEC championship and do the same thing for the college football playoffs? So I'm with you. I want to see the 2 best teams. I don't want to see one out of the East, one out of the West, or one out of this pod and one out of that pod.
Right.
I mean, the SEC championship, how many times has you heard Steve Spurrier say that it's harder winning the SEC than it is a national championship? It's a fun game to watch. So, yeah, give me the top 2.
Yeah, are we rewarding excellence, or are we rewarding, someone that won a group or a conference that we just decided 10 minutes ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so moving on to Arkansas, Shane, a little bit different. Now, I did say I averaged out the distance to campus for all these pods, if you want to call it that. The three opponents for Alabama, only 184 miles was the average for those three that they had to face. A little bit different story here with Arkansas. There's a distance gap here, but just getting feedback from Arkansas fans, they love this potential three-team setup of annual opponents. LSU, so we get the Golden Boot game. Texas, which they sure as hell hate the Longhorns, so they're happy with that. And Texas A&M, and I think the average distance there between those three, 525 miles. So it is a distance gap, but you don't have to play Missouri every year, which I think Arkansas fans would be certainly happy about. And I think when Arkansas is at its best, it's recruiting the state of Texas. And when you're playing in that state every year, outside of the day of Jerry World game that everybody's done with, you're either going to be going down to Austin or College Station every season. I think being able to pitch going into the state of Texas at least once a year, I think that would be big for the Razorbacks. And, I think this is a schedule they can get behind. What do you think?
Oh, man. Out of all of them, this one's probably my favorite, brother, because I'm just thinking of future games and past games when these programs met. And if you take a dot and you take it to each four of these stadiums, I mean, you go Arkansas to LSU to Texas A&M, and then you shade the center. If you can own that area with recruits and wins, dude, you're competing for an SEC championship every single year. So this is you want to talk about one of the toughest pods. Obviously, I think this is going to be it. But that's what makes rivalries great, brother. And every time that one of these teams plays another, it's going to be an epic showdown. So, yeah, I love this one.
And, the only teams that I think you maybe have an argument to put in here, maybe put an Ole Miss in there, but then you're probably losing LSU. You don't want to lose that boot game. Maybe Oklahoma, but if you did that, then you probably have to sub Texas or Texas A&M. And
Maybe Mizzou.
I don't know.
I mean, the border war, I mean, come on. They've been making that pretty intriguing here lately.
Yeah, that's true. But Ed, you just lost us all the Arkansas fans. So, but
I'm not here to pander. I'm here to tell you the truth. And the fact of the matter is, this pod right now, the way it's set, like I said, would be absolutely dynamite. And whoever comes out ahead is most likely going to, like I said, compete for a college football playoff every single time.
Right. Now, how about this one, Shane? Auburn, their three opponents. Again, very short distance average for these three. 194 miles from campus would be their pod, so I think they'd love it. We already said Alabama, of course, so you're going to keep the Iron Bowl there. And in this scenario, you get to keep Georgia, which is the Deep South's oldest rivalry right there. Auburn fans sign up for that. And then, again, Mississippi State, which is very close to campus. What do you think about that three for Auburn? I mean, I don't think there's any debate. Those are probably the best three for Auburn.
Yeah, I think I was trying to just play devil's advocate, but I really do think that's a good three for them. Mississippi State's probably like, damn, why don't we go somewhere else here again? Why we got to play all the Alabama teams here? But I think you make a good case here. I mean, obviously, Alabama, Georgia, those are no-brainers. It's that Mississippi State that's sitting there, but you make a good case. Again, it's not that far away. This rivalries are about neighbors a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? You got houses divided, cities divided. So you do that by playing teams that are closer to you. So, yeah, give me Mississippi State, Auburn. I'll take that.
Now, the only thing I'd hate to lose annual game matchup Auburn LSU, because that one is, that's a great one. So, we're losing a little bit. But again, at the end of the day, you're getting LSU every other year. So not a huge loss.
There has there's got to be some give. And that's what's driving a lot of these these gray hairs or old folks like myself, Mike, away. It's like, well, I don't want, I joked about Tennessee, Alabama. I don't want to give that damn game up. I know Nick Saban's owning us right now, but it comes in waves, and who knows, we may run the next 10 years. So that's the beautiful part of a rivalry. So nobody just wins all the time. I think this is a good list so far. I've not seen any flaws, really.
Now, here's the first flaw, in my opinion, Shane. Florida, the schedule that we've got laid out in front of us, you got to keep that Georgia game, of course. They play annually in Jacksonville. That's a must for the Florida Gators. South Carolina, interesting selection here, but, again, I did the average miles, 362 miles between Columbia and Gainesville, so a fairly close game. And on the sheet that we have, it's got Florida, Oklahoma as another one, and that's the one where I'm scratching my head trying to figure out where in the hell they got Florida and Oklahoma. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think they just threw that one in there. I got to see LSU, Florida. When I see Florida, some of the best games. I mean, how many times have we talked about it? That game's going to come down to the final possession, especially here lately. So, and I go back to the whole hurricane, the homecoming.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many epic games come out of there. So I got to have my LSU Florida game. I think they nailed it with Georgia. Obviously, the South Carolina one I get, but as a Tennessee fan, I really, even though we've not having a favorable outcome typically, but it's tough for me not to see Florida and Tennessee every single year.
Mm-hmm. And going back to that Florida LSU, so again, that's the team that we've made that amendment. We think LSU makes a lot more sense. I don't know if you remember this one, Shane, but. Tragic. It was sad news. Mike the Tiger. There was, they've had a number of them down there, but they had one die, and then Florida won in Baton Rouge, and they had a little skeleton of a tiger.
Oh God! Oh, rest in peace, man.
That's the hatred there. We can't lose that game.
Yeah.
Florida LSU, give me that one. Even though they're not close to each other, but that's one of the best games in the SEC. You know what?
Absolutely. The shoe toss. I mean, there's been some great games. You got to have it. What do you think about Tennessee? What do you think about, I get the distance deal, but taking South Carolina out, we'll talk about them here in a little bit, but, and putting the Vols there. Is that possible, or you think it's going to mess with some of these other schedules too much?
Well, you could possibly do it if you're Tennessee, but then, you'd have to, There's no chance in hell they're not going to keep Tennessee and Vanderbilt because they're both in-state opponents. So we've already talked about the Alabama game. That means you're going to lose Tennessee and Kentucky. And Tennessee-Kentucky makes a lot more sense to me than Tennessee-Florida.
Yeah.
Given that distance factor, unless you're saying, let's do away with the Alabama game and let's keep Florida. And again, I know Tennessee-Florida has been such a great game, but Tennessee-Alabama's got, 100-plus years of history. So
right.
I think that's one that Tennessee, and even at the end of the day, they'll probably be happy about it. I think you got to let that Tennessee-Florida, the annual game, I think you got to let that one go.
Well, Mike, I got to fight because I'm on the radio here, but I've left that game a lot, with my head down and crying my eyes out, and I can't believe I spent so much damn money on this damn team in this stadium, kicking rocks as the Gator fans go by me chomping. Part of me would love to get rid of that rivalry, but again, when you think about some of the games we did win, they were some of the greatest. 2001, rings a bell. Going down to the Swamp, one of my favorite games. The unanswered Jawan Jennings. I mean, that game right there. There's just been so many. And then on the other side, there's been some serious heartbreakers with the Hail Marys, and we don't have to talk about those, but they're on there. You can Google them. But the Tennessee Florida game, that would be tough for me. But it is. You got to remember, that even if we, in this scenario, we still would get to play Florida every other year. So in a 4-year span, you're still playing them twice. So it's not like we're totally doing away with it. It's just we're not doing it every year. So yeah, I see what you're saying. I won't make an argue there.
All right, moving down to Georgia, Shane. So we've already hit on 2 of these teams. Of course, you got to keep the Florida rivalry, got to keep that thing going. Auburn, we mentioned that already. Georgia, Auburn, that the history goes back over 100 years. And then last, South Carolina. I think that just makes a ton of sense there. Those states are connected, and the average, the distance between those 2 campuses, 165 miles, so close.
Yeah,
I think this is a perfect one for Georgia.
Yeah, I do too. I like playing Georgia, but I think the South Carolina-Georgia line makes too much sense. And I think we got to stick with that. Yeah.
Now, how about this, Shane? I mean, this may be the biggest damn winner of this whole thing here. The Kentucky Wildcats, Tennessee, which is starting to become, pretty heated little rivalry here. Vanderbilt, and another one that is somewhat emerging as a rivalry, Missouri. So, hey, I think 10 out of 10 Kentucky fans would sign up for a pod of Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Missouri.
Yeah, they may have been the one that made this list, Mike. A lot of blue in this thing now that I look at it again. So, but I think, yeah, if you're a Kentucky fan, you're extremely happy. I mean, Tennessee, Vanderbilt makes sense. They are close. Mizzou, Kentucky, man, that game's been kind of ugly and a little bit chippy. I think Florida, Kentucky game's been fun here of late. That's one that you definitely would look toward, but as far, because you can't make everybody happy. I think Kentucky would love to have this schedule.
Yeah, I really like I said, they're probably the big winners if it goes to this format. If this is the exact way we keep it. Now the LSU Tigers, Shane. How about this one? Ole Miss Rebels. That's a rivalry that goes back. We already talked about the Florida game. And, of course, we've already talked about Arkansas. So you keep the boot. You keep the Magnolia Bowl. You keep your annual rivalry here with the Florida Gators. And, again, the only one I think you kind of pick apart here, you'd love to see Alabama on this list if you could. The original one we have here actually has Texas A&M. I've subbed out Texas A&M for Florida. Because I just think that, there's so much longer history between LSU and Florida. But right. What do you think? Because, you would hate to lose annual LSU Texas A&M. There's been some good games there too. But, we're only talking, 10 years of history.
Right. Yeah, history. I mean, I see what you're saying, but I don't know. I think I'm a glass half full guy. I like to look at the future too. And one game that's not on here, and we're going to get to them here in a second, I just think this LSU-Texas thing is going to be a deal, brother. I think they're going to steal each other's recruits. I think they've already faced a couple times. It's been wild. It's been exciting. So, I don't know. I think that may be an interesting one to pencil in. But definitely want to have the Florida Gators. I get that. Arkansas, yeah, Ole Miss, okay. It's just, I don't know. When I think of great LSU games, I'm kind of like you. I think of the Alabamas. I think of the Florida games. I think some of those nail biters. I don't come across and say, man, you remember at Texas A&M? It's just right. They've had some good games, but it's not one that we're just talking about. It's not on the top. When we're doing a countdown, there's not too many Texas A&M LSU highlights that we're throwing out there. So I don't know. Well, I guess there was the 5 overtime? Is that what maybe that's what it was. Just
7 overtime.
7 overtimes. The one I fell asleep at, didn't even get to watch. Woke up, missed. I missed the damn. I'll never forget, man. I was watching this game and it was late, man. It was so late, and I was just like, I can't do it. I've been drinking all day. I said, I'm just gonna. I think this thing's over. And next thing I know, I wake up next morning and I got 500 text messages talking about I'm missing the greatest game to ever hit college football. To this day, man, I watched. And then what's bad is I was recording it. And unfortunately, I didn't record 4 extra hours, so I didn't even get to finish it. I had to wait till the YouTube version came out. But anyway, LSU's a tricky one, brother. Obviously, this list is good. But I think you hit the nail on the head. You got to get A&M out of there and switch it with Florida for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now, moving to Missouri, this one is wonky, admittedly. I don't know if
Mississippi State.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's do Mississippi State here. Again, very, very close. 139 is the average miles with these 3 games that Mississippi State will have. But Alabama, we already touched on that, very close. Auburn. And then, of course, you got to keep the Egg Bowl. So, Ole Miss, the in-state rivalry there. I've seen a number of Mississippi State fans. They're fed up with this. They're like, what the hell? Ours is a lot tougher than Ole Miss. And again, to me, I understand that argument. I sympathize with it. But at the end of the day, this Starkville is so close to Tuscaloosa and very close to Auburn, Alabama. This just makes sense if you're just talking purely about proximity. This is one of the closest pods that you're going to have in this entire SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really argue it. We've already argued Auburn and Alabama here, and there's no way I would want to see Mississippi State not play Ole Miss. I think that's one of the biggest rivalries of the SEC. So, I'm going to have to go with this list just off, past arguments we've already had.
Mm-hmm. So, now, back to the wonky one, Shane, here, the one that, it's tough because they don't have a ton of history in this league, and you're trying to, move all these pieces around. But the Missouri Tigers, we already hit on Kentucky. That's somewhat of that's a burgeoning rivalry, so I like that one. But the ones we've got listed here, Oklahoma, that makes some sense. They used to play against one another in the Big 12, so I'm okay with it. Mm-hmm. But Ole Miss is the other one listed, and that doesn't make a ton of sense to me, Shane, but also I would add that, it's closer, Columbia, Missouri to Oxford, Mississippi, or no, it's not closer, it's 10 miles further than it is from Missouri to Oklahoma, so, it's not a massive gap here or anything, but, that'd be a new game we'd be getting. You know what? Ole Miss, Missouri. That doesn't necessarily roll off your tongue. You know what?
No, it doesn't. And Ole Miss, I don't know. Mizzou, there's a couple of them. I'm liking the Kentucky game. I think the Oklahoma, I think that's a hit, getting some of those guys back together. And you can't do Texas because we're going to do Texas here in a minute. And it just makes too much sense what's on their list. So I'm looking at it. The only other team that I would find a little interest in would be South Carolina, just because the Columbia battle, I think of even going back to our boy, the Golden Goose, there's been some epic games between South Carolina and Mizzou. I just think that could be something. So I don't know. I'd probably be a little bit more in favor of a team like South Carolina than I would Ole Miss, but you know, that's what happens when you have some of these new programs. You're going to have to kind of fake it till you make it, fabricate this thing a little bit and create new rivalries.
Mm-hmm. Now, how about jumping back to the state of Mississippi, Shane? Ole Miss, again, we got to keep the Egg Bowl. We've already discussed that. You'd get Missouri, like we just said, which is, I know that sounds weird, but you also get LSU to keep that Magnolia Bowl alive and well. And certainly just looking at it on paper, Shane, Mississippi State's got Alabama, Auburn, and Ole Miss. And Ole Miss got Mississippi State, LSU, Missouri. I see why the Bulldog fans not very fond of this, but hell, Ole Miss fans got to drive twice as far to go to these bowl matchups in Mississippi State. So, hey, you got the edge in gas miles. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I guess that makes sense. At least you didn't have to drive as far to watch it. So, I don't know. We're getting in the middle of this stuff, and like I said, we push and pull a little bit on these schedules, but there's got to be a couple of teams that that just bite the bullet, man. And I think this Ole Miss, I think they are going to make out like a bandit compared to their counterparts, Mississippi State.
Maybe Lane Kiffin's the one that made this list.
Yeah, there you go. It could have. I don't know. It could have.
How about Oklahoma, Shay, next on the list? I mean, I think this one makes a ton of sense. Texas, you got to keep that one going.
Yeah.
Texas A&M, which, the Big 12 connections there are all over the map. And then Missouri, again, that goes back to their Big 12 roots. I think that'd be a perfect 3 for Oklahoma. What about you?
Yeah, it's the easy one. This is an easy one. This is one that you're like, okay, yeah, it makes sense because they used to play each other. So I think obviously we'd really enjoy it, this firing up an old rivalry. If you're looking at the list, you notice, again, the Florida Gators are here. Mike has removed those Gators from the list, and he has added Texas A&M, which in my opinion makes a lot more sense. So, yeah, I am good with this, and just thinking about future games. Well, I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for a couple of years watching Oklahoma, thinking of them as an SEC team. Just like it was tough when Mizzou first got over. I hated Missouri because they felt like they didn't belong there. Texas A&M felt like I don't know, maybe because I didn't watch as many games back then at Texas A&M. Mizzou I got to see, and it wasn't pretty the first time they played Tennessee. So I had it out for Mizzou for a long, long time, but I finally accepted them into the SEC. But I'm looking at Oklahoma. I've hated Oklahoma. I've made fun of Oklahoma for how many years, Mike? You know what I'm saying? It's going to take me a while to embrace the fans, and I'm going to do my best. We were talking about doing the SEC media days, and we're going to be talking to Oklahomans. Is that what you call them? I don't even know what you call them.
I
What,
guess.
Oklahomans?
Boomers.
You know
Sooners.
Boomer Sooner, I coined it. Well, I'm going to get them Sooners, and I'm going to embrace them, but it's going to take a minute, brother. And it's going to be great watching these games, some of the ones we've seen in years past. So I think that's the list. I think that's what we do for Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. And next on the list, Shane, South Carolina. We've already talked about Georgia. That's a natural fit there. You're getting a little bone here. You're getting Vanderbilt, which is not far from your campus. Maybe you could switch that. You could argue Tennessee, Knoxville, certainly closer than Nashville. Yeah. But and then last but not least, we already kind of touched on this one, but the Florida Gators in South Carolina, they've had some pretty good games here in years past. Yeah. So I think if you're a South Carolina fan, you're looking at this, you're saying, yeah, we may be behind Georgia at the moment, but hell, we just beat Florida. We beat Vanderbilt every year. I think if you're a Gamecock, you'll sign off on this one.
Yeah, I think you will too. Obviously, they'd love the Vanderbilt snag, but I would like to see Mizzou instead. But yeah, I think this is a good list. You can even throw Tennessee in there in the mix, but it's South Carolina's a tougher team because you got Clemson, you got to play every single year. So when I think of a South Carolina rivalry, it's the first thing that pops in my mind. Not an SEC opponent. But I think these three teams are pretty solid.
Now, this is the one I know you've been waiting for, Shane. Texas. You wanted to talk about them Longhorns. We got to keep them together with the Sooners, with their annual game. Former Big 12 foes coming together to the SEC. We keep them together. And then the game that I'm dying to see, Texas A&M, we got to keep that one. We just got to get them back on the field. And then we've already discussed it here, but hell, I mean, we had months and months and months of Arkansas fans talking trash to Texas. That is a rivalry, and they're not even the same damn conference anymore. That one makes all the sense in the world to keep Arkansas and Texas together. Again, I think this is perfect for Texas.
Yeah, this is great. The only, like I said, the only other one I had was the LSU. Because what it could become. But I think these three would be fantastic. Seeing Texas A&M again, because you got to remember, Texas thinks Texas A&M ran away, the big brother little brother thing, and now here Texas A&M is getting all these damn recruits, and they're building a new stadium, and they got everything set up. They got a national champ coach. They're winning more than 10 games a year. They're ready. And I think they're ready to play some Texas football again. It's just they needed a hard reset and needed to find their own groove. But, man, they're hitting it in stride. So when this game trigger, it's happening, Mike. Texas A&M is happening. Whether this is the pod thing or whatever, there's going to come a day, brother, and we know in the not so distant future that these two programs are going to face each other, and just the pure hatred in that state alone will be worth it. I want to go, Mike. Pencil me in. First time I don't care where it's at. It could be in Texas. It could be in Jerry's World. It can be in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I don't care. Wherever this thing's at, Mike, we're going. We got it. We got to get a little. I mean, I can't imagine. This place is going to explode wherever it's at, just like I said. And it doesn't matter if Texas is ranked better. It doesn't matter if Texas A&M's ranked better. When these two teams meet, it's going to be pure hate, and I want to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. All right, Shane, moving on to your squad, the Vols. You know, we've kind of hit on a lot of these already. Alabama, keeping that rivalry going. Kentucky, you know, sharing the border there, and that's a growing rivalry. And you're keeping the in-state Vanderbilt annual game alive. Thoughts on the Tennessee's pod with Alabama, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. And I know there's one amendment you've already shared on Twitter that your three that you'd like to see.
Yeah. Go ahead and let Alabama go, and we'll take, I don't know, Missouri, Ole Miss, one of those. Yeah. Just kidding. I want to keep the third Saturday in October because I do think better days are ahead for my Volunteers, but it's just a good rivalry, you know, and it's something that your dads talk about, your papaws talk about. It's a deep game. And I don't want to lose that. I hate that we'd, in this scenario, lose the Florida game. Even though, like I said, it hasn't been favorable, I still miss that one. I would still like to see it every year. But, again, we're going to get it every other year in this scenario. But as far as Vandy and Kentucky, sign me up, brother. You know, when I put this thing out there, and it was funny because when I did put it out there, I got more reaction from Kentucky fans saying, you know what? I want that list. Yeah. So they want it. We want it. Just make it happen. Vandy, Kentucky, Alabama. Yeah, if we do that, I'll be okay.
So we kind of already hit on A&M, but again, Texas, keeping that thing, bringing that back to the field, I should say. Oklahoma, you know, they have a long history in the Big 12 together, so that makes a lot of sense. And the Arkansas Razorbacks, you know, that's a growing rivalry. And on this list, it does have A&M LSU, so you could certainly make the argument for the Tigers to play the Aggies every season. I wouldn't really fight you on it, but I just switched that out for Oklahoma because I think, you know, LSU can only play so many games here. But, you know, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, I'd love to see that every year.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a solid list there.
Now, again, I think potentially a winner in this thing, Shane, Clark Lee and company, Vanderbilt, last team. Tennessee, we already hit on that. You're keeping the in-state game alive. Kentucky and South Carolina. I think Commodore fans, I think they'd be happy with this pod.
Yeah, I think they would too. I think this is a good list for them, and if they can't get some victories, they got to get some victories, Mike. I think after 10 years of this, if they fail to maintain a 30% win against the SEC, then we should just kick them out, and we should get another team in here. So if you got Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, there's no reason, especially because Tennessee, Kentucky, and South Carolina have good years and they have bad years. And that's when you got to capitalize. And I think that's what Vanderbilt's going to do. So, yeah, I think they sign up that list. They're going to be successful. But it ain't going to be easy because you still got to play them other SEC teams as well. But I think if you're a Vandy fan, you absolutely would love to see those three.
All right, Shane. Hey, man, we're going on just about an hour here, just spieling on the a schedule that is not even. It's just hypothetical at this point, but that's what college football podcasts here in February are made for, is conversations like this. So let's cut this thing off before we hit to the second hour mark here. But you got anything else before we hop off the line?
No, I think it's funny that we're going to be doing this and watch, Mike, it never fails. A day, 2 days, 3 days, there's going to be something that leaks out of the SEC, and we're going to find out this schedule has no bearing on what the future schedules are going to look like. So we may have just wasted your hour. So if you learned anything today, you've learned that those blueberry cream pies are legit at McDonald's. But no, I'm joking. I've got nothing else here, brother. It's fun talking future schedules. I'm getting excited just looking at some of these games. Man, that Texas A&M one, that one just stood out. And I don't know. I went there. I got goosebumps because that's going to be such a great game. And I can't wait to witness it. So, but anyway, brother, I can ramble all night long. I have nothing else. It was good talking to you again. I'm sure my schedule's a little wonky this week, but I don't know. Do you plan on what's your show look like this week? What's the output?
Oh yeah, we'll have loaded shows. We'll be reaching out to some guests. So we're gonna have several pods this week. Shane is hitting the road like he said, but we've got big things planned once he gets back. So might be a couple special episodes coming in the weeks to come. So be on the lookout for that. And this week, have guests. Shane Beamer, I know, is meeting with the media here on Monday, so we're gonna have clips from him on Tuesday. But we're gonna be a loaded show. You enjoy your time off here, brother. You've earned it.
I know it seems like I'm saying that every week, but legitimately, this is it. After this week, I'm done with the traveling. So I'll be on full time after that, and we're gonna hopefully have some more content come out. It's not just list season, even though we just went through a fake schedule. But it's the off season, baby. That's what we signed up for. But we're gonna have some legit content. South Carolina, I mean, that's huge. I mean, you want to talk about a program that's fired up, man. These Gamecocks. I don't know if you're seeing them online, but there's a lot of them out there expecting a special season. They got them a quarterback. They feel like they got them a coach. I'm very eager to see what these Gamecocks are going to be doing going into 2022 here.
Yeah, absolutely. All it takes, Shane, is me to throw out one clip of Spencer Rattler, and the rest of the SEC goes wild. So, hey, I might as well keep doing that for a couple weeks, brother. But
that's right.
I think that's a great place to jump off, Shane. I appreciate you. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you for checking us out. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.